looking at sleeps and trips, and we'll be looking at walk at height. We'll be looking at musculoskeletal disorder, MSD, display screen equipment, manual handling, workplace transport, and workplace stress. Well, I would like to, because many a time we want to do control, but the best way to do control is to first know what is the risk matrix. If you don't know the risk rating, if you don't know what is happening, many a time it's going to be difficult to know what kind of control you need to put in place. And so many a times, some of these things are just uh, coded in color, could be coded in numbers, and it could be coded in words. For example, when they says, something is, maybe the risk rating is red, is amber or green, and then what of the severity of that, the likelihood of that something of that risk. Well, they have to combine two major things together. Likelihood and the severity have to be combined together. And when you are talking about when a particular risk is possibly injury is high, you say serious personal injury is fatal or major or serious health effect. Yeah, that's what we are talking about. So something that can cause death. And when you say significant injury, well, if where reporting system is available, such incident, such kind of hazard, a kind of injury or kind of a thing that happened has to be reported. That means it have a significant health effect on the people. It might even cause permanent or irreversible or non-reversible progressive condition to such a person or disability. When we now say a minor injury, we mean probably does not need to be reported to the regulatory authority. If something that could be in the first aid region or minor health effect, condition not included in serious personal injury or significant injury. And all these things will have to be coded into the risk matrix or whatever you are using to do your risk analysis before you can come out to say the risk is serious, is significant, or minor. And then so many risk rating could be in the color, could be in number, will be put together. And so you can see that color. I just decided to explain this one briefly because when you go into real risk assessment, you will come out with end of this thing. Maybe at the end of the day, your risk will fall into this amber section or it falls into green section. It depends on the likelihood and the severity that where you fall into. And so to do risk assessment is a very serious case and you combine a lot of factors together. Take for example, you have this particular picture and you look at how these people are taking this hazard. Say, for example, you are trying to control coronavirus in a country, and then you see people wearing such a thing like this. So, can any of these control what is coronavirus? Or what do you think these people are actually thinking? Now, my perception, my view of putting this one here is to see how do you perceive things? How do you perceive risk? Because in some places there are serious risk, but yeah, people don't perceive it. They don't know it's a serious risk. If you're trying to control coronavirus, for example, and people put on this kind of picture, kind of PPE, a kind of personal protective equipment, what do you think they're thinking? They actually probably don't have the right perspective of coronavirus. They don't think it's a serious matter. Probably think some people it's a joking matter. And so when you have people around like that who are thinking like that, then the kind of control you might be putting in place, you might also be looking at the behavior of people before you can put the control. You might just think, oh, well, this place social distancing will be okay, or maybe respirator will be okay, but you need to also deal with the behavior of people, so which is called behavioral safety. So I just put this one here to let you know that at times not only what you can assessing the physical risk, the people you are dealing with, the human being, the equipment, all of this one might contribute to effectiveness of the solution you are going to provide. So our first topic is sleeps and trips. Sleeps and trips are the most common cause of injury at work and 40% of most injury reported. And it leads to types of various serious accidents and falls from height. Sleeps and trips are also the most reported injury even to the members of the public. And when we are talking about sleep hazard, they include liquid spills. Don't forget, I'm talking about sleep because I'm going to do a poll at the end of the lecture. It includes sleeps include hazard includes sleep spills, waters on the floor, dropped solid materials, refuse on the floor, dust floors, loose rugs or materials, and unsuitable floor surfaces, sloping floor surfaces, and wearing on of unsuitable floor. So I put the two together now in as slips and trips. But in the as we continue, we'll be able to uh, you know speak much about this thing and separate them very well. Okay. The looking at United Kingdom and a very singular health and safety regulation as far back as 1974. It's very essential, requires employer to ensure the health and safety of all employees and anyone that may be affected as far as reasonable practicable must be controlled. So this includes control of sleeps and trips at work. No employee have the duty not to be put themselves or others in danger and must use any safety equipment provided. Manufacturers also have the responsibility to ensure that their products are safe. Their products are safe. They must also provide adequate information and the appropriate use, how it can be used. It's not only just good. You just tell the people you need to put enough information how this equipment should be used. Then there's also the Management of Health and Safety Regulation 1999, which require employers to assess the risk. So can you see now? It is the duty of the employer to assess the risk, including the sleep and trips at work, risk at work, and when necessary to take action to address them. When you don't do that one, then the person uh, might be caught up with you know Management of Health and Safety Works Act 1999. So the Workplace Health, Health Safety and Welfare Regulation 1992 also requires floor to be suitable, in good condition, and free from obstruction. People should be able to move around in the work factory, in a place, in an admin, in any place you find yourself. They should be able to walk freely, without sleep or trips. And it also requires that for READER, that is the Reporting of Injury, Disease, and Dangerous Occurrence Regulation 2013, you have to report certain injury. It is by law you have to report certain injury. Yeah, so sleeps, I put this place what I call the sleeps module and trips triangle. Now, when you are dealing, you want to control sleeps at the place of work. Majorly, you have this module that can help you to deal with almost all the sleeps that can take place in your place of work. If cleaning is proper, if the flooring is okay, people behave well, environment is well controlled, there's appropriate footwear, and contamination are dealt with, then this gives us a module that we can use to deal with sleeps in any place. And then when it comes to trip, When it comes to trip, you have the walkways, how you handle the walkways, and then housekeeping, and then design and maintenance of the work area. And so many times slips and trips are put together, but they are things that are separate. They are things that are distinct. They are things that you can see clearly that this is trips and this is sleeps. And I want us to particularly have understanding of that. That is sleep and trip potential. This is a fact, especially for factory model. If you work in a factory, these are the things that you'll be looking at when you want to, assess the risk and you want to control, sleeps and trip at an environment such as factory. So you look at the environment, we'll be dealing with some of these things in the long run. You're looking at the floor very well, the people's behavior, I mean, their training, the information you have about all these things, and then the footwear, you have PPE, but is it appropriate one? And then the contamination and obstacles around the workplace in the factory, they can be of great importance for you to be able to control it. And I have a case study here that the public trust, for example, they had a problem with slips and trips and on a wet hospital floors. In a 2-year period, 100 members of staff had been reported for slips and trips on wet floor. And then they have recently done something to clean some fish in a certain way as a result of health and safety professional recommendation to them that they need to do the cleaning using dry mopping system, using microfiber mops that reduce the amount of residue left on the floor during and after the mopping. Then the staff are also advised to mop and dry the floor in section, not just in one place, so that it can give room for other side even to dry and come back and to ensure not everywhere is wet at the same time. And since the trust implemented this kind of system, it has been almost 85% reduction in sleeps and trip from those 100 people that reported sleep and trip in the previous year. Okay, and so I show to you in this place some of the dangers because it's very costly when some of these sleep and trip are not controlled at the place of work. People might think it's very simple, but of course you must have heard a lot of people die, a lot of people fell in the bathroom and they die. And just in their room, in their houses, they sleep, not even at the place. So not only in a factory or in an organization that we can have the damage of sleep and trip. There's a particular picture here that I put into this place. You will see this one destroyed by a mushroom. A mushroom. A mushroom is this is the in the shop in a shopping mall, and a lady went to the shopping mall, and the place was not tidy enough, and the lady decided to sleep on a mushroom, and that became a very big case. It was taken to the court. Everything was done. Time was wasted. People have to go to court, you know. And at the end of the day, uh, this lady became, disabled for life. She could not come back onto her feet to walk again. Has to be so it was reduced even to the wheelchair just because of a mushroom that was not tidy enough in a shopping mall. Just sleep is very powerful. Can cause a lot of damages. Of course, it cost the company a lot of money, about 550,000 pounds. 550,000 pounds were paid out for this woman because the damage that had been done to her was so serious. Probably it's not going to work for the rest of her life, and it's going to has mortgage to pay, he has family and the rest of them. Well, that is how far sleep can do the cost of sleep. Now, sleep on the dust, contamination in machine shop. I've worked in industry for almost 14 years as engineer and the rest of that. And I know especially in shop floor, you see a lot of debris, a lot of contamination, a lot of dust on the floor, and they are not going to be properly taken care of. And that is very dangerous for staff. When they sleep on that one, somebody can be on a wheelchair for the rest of his life. It's not care. So there will be appropriate care. And you also see to the right side here, this is a food factory, and now that's a food spillage. That's where you see product are mixed with some wet material. You see they become very slippery. So the food spillage was inevitable. And so when you are dealing with sleeps, you take care of all these things. You assess all this before, otherwise you might not be able to control sleep very well if this is not dealt with. And when you look at some industry, I put some example here, and you see in industry, this is a kitchen, factory industry, kitchen in a factory. And you can see that, maybe the caterer and the rest of them, a lot of food on the floor. You can see a lot of food on the floor, and some you can also be sure that it's going to be wet, it's going to be hot environment, and it sleeps. And look at this particular one in construction area. And if you look at very well, they're carrying this heavy material. And as they're carrying this heavy material, look behind him, there's a tool that on the floor, or an obstacle on the floor. He didn't realize that one. This is one is trip. This is trip. This is sleep. And then on this place, you can see this man on the floor already, as is an old man on the floor, because you can see the floor is wet also. You can also see this one as a contamination. That is more or less an entrance to maybe a shopping mall, and the place is wet. When you are entering to a shopping mall, the frontage can be wet, it could be rain season, and when it's raining and there's some food people are carrying out, something are dropping on the floor, and then everything becomes slippery. It can be very, very dangerous. Also, sleeps, you have anti-sleeps factory, a swimming pool, a mobile platform, a walkway. You see in this place also, you can see a factory, and then you see this place, they put this place anti-sleep factory walkway. So they have shown to people when you are walking in this factory, the only safe place for you to walk is this area. Now, by the time you go to all this particular area, there's tendency the person might sleep. And so when you are de fact designing a factory or designing the walkway, you are designing the workplace, all this arrangement has to be made to keep people safe. And then you see this particular one, this is mobile work equipment, and most of this equipment you can find them all over the places. And then you see this kind of sedation on them is just to make sure that there's enough anti-sleep, on this particular platform. When even most of us go on plane, we travel. Even before you enter your plane, one of the last thing you are going to see before you enter is this particular platform. And if this platform is slippery, or I can tell you, the operator of that airline now know they're in big trouble if anybody fall in this place. It could be run into millions of naira or pounds that they can pay. And also you can see anti-slip, floor, the finished floor with an uneven distribution of anti-slip treatment. And so when you are designing, when you are in any form of designing, getting involved in all this work with designing, even from designing from the scratch, or designing a house, designing building, designing factory, you need to think of all where people will be working on. How are you catering for this place? It could be a very big one, to a difference to what you are doing to make, to cater for, for people in future, to already showing that this thing can happen and include it in your design. You see, you can even see that in this place, you see this walkway is slippery anti-slip coverings on walkway. This place is covered with some anti-slips, so that when they walk on that route, now the people may not slip. You can even see it in this place that even a rock factory who did not maintain his rock. Look at this place. Can you see? He's selling rock to people to maintain their factory, to maintain their houses, to bring out a very decent, buildings and the rest of them. But right in his own shop, right in his own floor, where people are walking, look at the rock. The rock is torn, and yet did not maintain it. And somebody fell on this place, and then there was a heavy penalty to pay for that, because he's selling rug, and yet rug is creating problem. A ton of rug is creating trouble for people. And also, when we still move further, you will look at this one slope walkway. which was not apparent at first. When you look at this place, you see there's a gentle slope, but there may be not, you may not easily see that there is a slope in this place. But to design to make sure that, because a lot of people have been falling in from this place, you can see now they have redesigned this thing as a result of recommendation that there should be a sort of uh, another thing put on this place to show a color code put into this place, so to show to people that this is a graded place. Otherwise, the people will know that what's happened. Why do they put a color in this place different from this one? It's just to tell them this place has a gradient. And so if you are walking in this place, it is going to be through give you some information, and then they should also put some information around here and there to show that this place has a gradient. Because at times when you are walking, thinking you are walking on a flat surface and suddenly it becomes a gradient, now that can create some trouble for you. And this one is a design of a swimming pool. This place, a lot of trouble has happened there. And then after the inspection, it's discovered that, okay, what they can do is to ensure that they put some anti-slippery into this place. So turning this walkway that has caused a lot of trouble, but people are coming out of a swimming pool and they are coming out, they are wet, the floor is wet, everywhere is wet. You can't just leave it and keep it, everything is fine. So apart from putting the what do you call it now? Is it terrazzo? Whatever you put there, there's need for anti-slippery to be put in the place where they are coming out of the sun. Because you don't do such a thing, you might become a victim. Your company might become a victim. The people who owns that place might run into a lot of trouble for not putting the appropriate thing. Because when they are sued, they are not going to be able to defend themselves. But if you have done enough to control the slip and trips, then you will be free. A major oil company have is incidents on injury from slips to trips, manual by slips, manual handling and force from height by doing some few things, training supervisors and managers in health and safety. What you are doing now is a way to control things, because you don't know how many hundreds and thousands of people that your knowledge and understanding is going to affect. For your training, for being, for going back to your places of work, probably you are leading about 200 workers or 1,000 workers. Instruction will be given to them. It's going to be more firm because you understand what you are going to be doing. Creating awards and recognition program that reward excellent safety performance and reinforce good health and safety practices. Training supervisor in intervention techniques, including observation of safe and unsafe behaviors, and to help them introduce changes in undesirable places. This training you are doing now is an opportunity for you to introduce more people to it, because the more you see people practicing, some unsafe behavior, you can even recommend this kind of training to them. Introducing and enforcing discipline procedure, even for breaches of health and safety. This is what some people have introduced to get things done. What are some practical steps, to prevent slips and trips? One of them is, stop floors becoming contaminated. Just ensure that as soon as the floor is contaminated, they are clean. Or if they are not clean, then you don't allow people to walk in that area. Entrance matting, you need to make sure that where people are coming in, that place has to be dealt with, because sometimes when rain is falling, is coming to that entrance, people are running inside, and then the place is wet. As they get inside, they thought, oh, finally I've escaped the rain, but they actually come into a serious problem when they fall down. No, so make sure that plant and equipment are maintained. Fix leaks from the machinery of buildings. I realized many times when I was working in industry, I realized that a lot of places, the machine will be leaking, and the operator will even say, well, it's not a problem, the machine is still working. The machine might be working, but you are creating danger, you are creating risk all around, because there's leaks coming from that place. So the machine has to be stopped, and maintainer need to come and maintain the machine and keep it in order. Because it's not that the machine is working, it's the fact that what is coming, the liquid is coming, the coolant that is coming, the other oil that is coming and mixing up together, and they are flowing all over the places. Is even a danger to the operator, a danger to supervisor, a danger to customers, a danger to whoever that is coming to that factory. Design tasks to minimize spillage, and then plan pedestrian and vehicle route to avoid contaminated areas. Use the right cleaning methods, when you are cleaning, it's not all the cleaning thing they are using. Some of them are making the floor to be more slippery. So you need to know the kind of, chemicals you use to do your cleaning. Make sure that your cleaning method is effective for the type of floor you have. Different floor have different way you can clean them, and we need to take note of that one. There are also practical ways of to prevent slips and trip accident. Don't introduce more slip or trip risk while cleaning is being done. Leave smooth floor, you know, uh, leave smooth floor dry after cleaning, or exclude pedestrians from walking around that area. You can direct people to walk in another route, not where you are cleaning. Some people, by the time they put the floor is wet, and they put that sign post in that place, and they think they are doing health and safety. You have not done anything. If anybody falls there and anything happens to that person, the company will pay for it. That does not stop the people. You won't have to prevent people falling. It's not because of the sign you have put there that is going to stop anybody. You have to do some extra thing to make sure, because if anybody falls or anybody trips and anything happened to that person, injury come to that place, to the person, you're going to pay for it, and the company, that the reputation might be damaged. And then staff that are supposed to be working for you, they're in the hospital, you are paying their bill. So we have to remove the spillage promptly. As soon as you see spillage, as soon as you see something that can create contamination, you have to take it immediately. Even in our homes, when we are walking around and you see cable trailing here and there, some people are saying, well, I'm not the one who put it there. It doesn't have to be you, but because when it happens, you will know it, even whether it's you or not. So there's need for you at this time, when you have something like this, you are able to prevent all these things. In our homes, it's high time for us to begin to put all these things into practice. You may not be working in a multinational company, but you are working in your house. All these things are applicable. Have an effective arrangement for both routine cleaning and dealing with spills all around. Even tea you can have a spill of tea, and you leave it and say, when I come back, I'll come and do it. And you go out. You don't know anybody that might be rushing inside by the time you left home. You need to clean it immediately. Use the appropriate detergent mix at the correct concentration. Consider the flooring and work environment. Check for loose, damaged, and worn flooring and replace as needed. Even some cables, that are trailing all over the place because they just put it aside and say, well, the maintenance will come. We need to barricade that area and make sure that people are secure from that. Floors likely to get wet or have spillage on them should be of the type that does not become unduly slippery. Make sure lighting is sufficient and slopes or steps are clearly visible. Where you have slopes, you have to understand that people can fall on that particular place. You need to consider that one also. Where steps are not regular, you need to consider that one can happen, and put signs to let people know you are going on a staircase or you are coming down on a slope. Now keep walkways and walk areas clear of obstruction. Get the right footwear. Now at times you are giving the PPE. The PPE is now worn. Is beyond level. Is beyond what can hold the grip on the floor. There will be need for that one to be changed, and there will need for that one to be checked regularly. If you go and do inspection anywhere, it's part of those things that's going to be done and going to be looked at, and say bring samples of all those things we're giving to your staff, and look at the staff and see what they're wearing. When you see some people's shoe, when you look at the back of it, half of them is already worn out and half is just raised up there, and then this one can cause a great slips on the floor. Now, where floors cannot be kept clean and dry, slip-resistant footwear can be help prevent the slip accident. Just like I've said, I've shown to us in different samples and these different inspections that I've given example. Try footwear first to make sure when you are giving a footwear, you need to try it and make sure that it's good for that environment. Wait. Don't, because somebody have just dropped it, make sure you don't just have to take somebody's shoe. You are size 7, you are putting on the size of somebody that is 8 or 9. That can easily cause trouble for you. If footwear is supplied as personal protective equipment, it must be supplied free of charge to employees. And this, I hope everybody will know on this platform, will know any PPE for health and safety, you as a staff, you are not supposed to pay for it. Anybody who say you should pay for it, that person has already violated the law. has violated the law. Consider how work is organized and managed to avoid rushing, overcrowding, and trailing cables. You have to have procedure, have to plan. You go from stage 1 to stage 2. You don't just move from stage 1 to stage 5. And when you rush everything, that may create problem. Make sure employers are involved in the decision that affect them, e.g. choice of PP footwear and change in cleaning methods. So sleep control, there are also some sleep controls we have here. Sleep control, we have put it one side, sleep controls and trip controls. The sleep control, which I've mentioned some of them, eliminate the contamination, stop contamination getting onto walkways, limit the effect of contamination by removing it properly, maintaining floor grip with proper cleaning methods, increase floor surface roughness, lay a more slip resistant floor with high surface roughness, just as the sample I've shown to you, deal with any changes in the walkway, like slopes and the rest of them. A condition right for good visibility and pedestrian concentration. The environment needs to be lit. Do the walking tasks. Into the walking tasks, introduce extra sleeps. Anytime you are bringing in new assignment, new job, changes here and there, you need to consider what is the sleep effect of that. Exclude vulnerable pedestrians from sleep risk areas. Have a good supervision. Establish a positive safety culture. Introduce safety, suitable footwear. Train and inform employees and set procedure for visitors. And when you look at trips, it's a little bit different from this. Eliminate holes. We're not talking about water. We're not talking about oil. We're not talking about some other liquids. Holes, slopes, uneven surfaces, good housekeeping system, and standard to prevent obstruction. Good lighting to see obstruction. Rearrange tasks and processes. The flow of those processes. Establish a positive attitude that trips can be prevented. Then also train and inform employees. I have a video to show here, but I'm not going to do that one because of our time. I'm not going to do that. Time is really gone. I'll go to the next one, walking at height. Walking at height. Walk at height, by definition, walk at height means walk in a place where if there were no precaution in place, a person could fall a distance liable to cause injury. Walk at height. Anything is above 2 meters. It's already walking at height. Walking at height does not mean until you climb. You might be on a flat surface, then there is a height below you. Somebody, in a motor repair area, you will see pit. You see this motor pit and the rest of them. I don't know what the right name to call it, where you have the mechanic has to stand under it. You have to go under it and then look at the vehicle upstairs. It's already a pit, so that's a height. Even though the person standing above is on below his feet, but it's already walking at height. For example, walking on a ladder or a flat surface is walking at height. Could fall through a fragile surface. It could fall into an opening in a floor or in a hole in the ground. Walk at height usually involves the use of access equipment. You will see many times you want to walk at height, whether you have a ladder, you have a step ladder, you have a trestle, you have cradles, you have tower scaffold, you have different kind of equipment, lifting equipment, even to access that particular place. So most of the time, you will need a little access equipment to go to such a place when you are going to walk at height. So the principle and standard applicable to walk equipment are equally relevant to access equipment. So a shop worker standing on a step ladder is involved in walk at height, but a police officer riding a horse on a patrol is not walking at height, as defined by the legislation. Walking at height, there are legal requirements, as walking at height regulation 2015 as amended, over the walk and height at which someone could be injured unless appropriate prevention and protection controls are in place. This covers the health and safety requirement, including instructors or leaders in a recreational climbing and carving. The regulation relates to the organizing and planning of walk at height, competent person at work, a supervision by competent person, the steps to be taken to avoid risk from work at height, a selection of work equipment. Particular work equipment are very important. The avoidance of risk from fragile surfaces, falling objects, and danger areas. Inspection of certain work equipment and workplaces before you use it. And the duties of the people working at height are very crucial. In many, occupational occupation, the requirement of the lifting operation and lifting equipment regulation 1998 are closely linked. Now look at these pictures I've just shown to you. There are numerous of them. This is working at height. This is working at height, mobile elevator equipment. This one is climbing, but it has some all other equipment is using to climb. It has some, false harnesses. It's working at height. This guy is also working at using ladder to walk. Look at this one. It's working at height. Though it appears as if it's coming down. It's coming down. Then you can see that where he is very far, and it's working at height. It's working at height. Now this guy also, I believe this will be common in Nigeria, where you have the telephone tower and people are working there, and then they're working at height. They have to do the appropriate thing, appropriate risk assessment, appropriate risk control. Now see, this guy also is working, even though there are some other material above him. Because he's working at height, he has put the necessary harnesses to make sure that in case there's a fall, then that is arrested. It's working at height, and you see this one also, dealing to clean some the outer part of the factory is being do some maintenance over there. It's working at height. Look at this one. This is mobile equipment, and then you have to be raised to that very high something. Now, for the fact that it has an equipment that is strong and powerful, is working at height. So the necessary has to consider it, has to consider the wind, has to consider environment, has to consider so many things before you carry out this kind of stuff. It's working at height. And then at times you see net where you are working in a place, and then they have to arrange some some nets to arrest, maybe there's a fall. Yeah, it's very essential in some places where you are working. Hazard in working at height, there's the hazard include falling from a high place. For example, construction worker falling from scaffold, warehouse worker falling from mobile platforms, as I've seen some of those platforms, and cleaners falling from step ladders. Objects falling from height and striking people, for example, is also another example of working at height. Bricks, falling from scaffold, tools falling from, a platform, and cartons falling from a storage rack. All these things, when you are working in a warehouse where you are the storekeeper, and then the items are also raised in the store. By the time you are going to be dealing with all these, the items that are beyond, 2 meters, and the rest of them, you're already working at height. And you have to use the appropriate and make sure the appropriate control is put in place. Being dislodged from or crossed by a structure that collapses, such as scaffolding that has not been erected properly. That's working at height. Contact with high level lightning and other electrical equipment. In some places, when they are working, they have possibility of touching live wire, of moving very close to live wire. They are working at height. Some people are even working even in a silo, in a very deep area, in some places where they have to be alone, and they have to some places working in the hole. So these are working at height. Working at height. What are the risks of working at height? And we have the risk control here. The hierarchy of the control. You can see the first thing, you see the risk of working at height. Time needed for the job to be completed. When there is no time to complete the job, there is a risk. Risk is already in that work. Complexity of the job. We have to look at that one also to ensure that the risk is reduced. Weather condition, I showed to you the other time, where that guy is using mobile elevation equipment and is almost very long to the top of the building. Before going to such a thing, you need to consider the weather. You need to consider the kind of wind. You need to look at the weather, what the weather is saying for that day. And somebody asks, in some places, there are bees, there are some dangerous things that will be flying around that place. And then when you are at the top over there and you have such a condition, You need to watch your environment and know what it means and know the implication of coming, or you use some equipment, or you use some covering, some PPE to make sure that when such a thing happens, you are able to protect yourself. The place where the work is to be done, including the surface of which the access equipment is supported. So when it's not only the place you are standing, where the equipment you are using, there are appropriate kind of risk you need to do for the equipment and make sure it's well supported, not where the equipment is going to sink or is going to slip, or somebody driving along the way is going to be able to hit that equipment. You are standing up. The amount of working space you have on that platform, very important. Provision of protective barriers, safety harnesses, and safety nets. Provision of protection against falling object. In most places, when you are, when you are walking at height, all the debris that are coming down, that are, channel, that are chutes you are going to use to install in those places, and they have to come down without hitting the people below you. Manner in which access equipment is erected or installed. Are they erected by competent person? Do they know what they are doing, what they are doing? Have they gone the training on doing that one? Competence of the worker, including the physical capability, training, and experience. Very, very important. And when you look at the hierarchy of control of this work at height, the first thing is to avoid it. You always want to make sure you avoid it if it's possible. Avoid it. Use some other method. You can use drones, you can use robots. Can you reach the cleaning without climbing? If you can avoid it, avoid it. That's the most safest way. The existing safe place you have already, the platform that is there, that is solid, that have been attached to that place, the handrails such as, elevation work platform, you can use those one. 4 protections measure, are they there? And that you are gradually coming down. Then collect, the guide rails. What are available to you? Then the 4 protection measures require a rescue plan. Collective protection, netting, airbags, personal protection, fall arrest, all these things. By the time you are using this one, this is the list of it. This is the list in the hierarchy. This is the list in hierarchy. Now, when you have all this personal equipment, PPE, and the rest of them, don't think you have gotten the best one. Your nose mask is the worst of controlling, dust, coronavirus. Your your respiratory mask is the worst. But some people are still not using it. And so, working at height, this is the controlling approach to it. Can you avoid it? Just like I've said, if you can avoid it, avoid it, prevent it. So if you can avoid it, then go to prevent it, fall from occurring. If not possible, you can prevent it, then minimize it. If you cannot minimize it, then use ladders, step ladders, or use other equipment to achieve what you want to do. Working at high control, risk assessment is very important. Proper planning, choice of equipment. When selecting work equipment for use in work at height, you should consider giving collective protection measure a priority than personal protective measure. And so you should take that one, should take account of the working condition, because your personal protective equipment is not going to take care of the working condition. The risk to the safety of the people at the place where the work equipment is to be used. The vertical distance for moving equipment into a place and the space around at the base of the equipment, you need to consider those ones for it to be effective. The distance and the consequences of potential fall, these are above your personal, protective equipment. The duration and frequency of use, and the need for easy and timely evacuation and rescue in an emergency. Working at height controls still continue. You have the platform, you have the guide rails, you have the safety lines, and you have the safety harnesses that you can use. And we have the various, a platform in this context is a secure piece of equipment from which people can work safely, such as scaffold, tower, scaffold, mobile elevating platform, mobile platform, steps, ladders with a platform. In selecting of this thing, you have to consider some suitable approach, the space available for the task, the type of work to be carried out, the time the job will take, the risk when taking up the platform, and how difficult the platform will be to maintain. and how many people will be standing on the way. You need to consider the weight. You need to consider the the stability, the protection against fall. What are you doing about protection against fall? When a guide rail or a barrier cannot be provided, a safe system of work needs to be designed and operated. We must not forget that one. Safe system of work is very, very important. This could be a fall arrest system, a work positioning system, and could involve safety net or safety lines with safety harnesses using secure anchor point to reduce the injury. To reduce the injury. So worker must, must be given training on so many things, on assembling of the equipment according to manufacturing instruction, wear and harnesses. Some people are given the equipment, they don't know how to wear it, they wear it wrongly. This, all this PPE is not for it's not for making it's not for making guys or not using it properly. The moment you don't wear PPE very well, you have defeated the purpose. Check equipment and recognize significant defect on it. Fall or learn to to minimize the injury. Rescue themselves from a position at height or to assist other after fall. Equipment including scaffolding, tower scaffolding, ladder step, ladder and step ladder, mobile elevation equipment. I'm going to jump this all this equipment in dealing with them one after the other. You will have the slides and you'll be able to read them on your own, because I guess my time is going to be far, far beyond that one before I can complete this training session. And so you have them in your slide, and you have a detailed explanation to all these mobile elevating equipment that you can use, the ladders and the step ladders, and then their importance. So I leave that aside for you, and I go to MSDs. MSDs simply means musculoskeletal disorder, and I will most of the time I'll be referring to MSDs in this one. And this MSDs is a poor ergonomics equal musculoskeletal disorder. Poor ergonomy. The World Health Organization defining, MDSS as disorder of the muscle, tendons, peripheral nerves, or vascular system not directly resulting from an acute trauma or instantaneous event. The two most common causes of musculoskeletal disorder in the dental health profession: cumulative traumas and prolonged static posture, with situation when you stand in the position for hours and hours. And can I say to you, as we are doing this training, by the time we spend 1 hour or 2 hours, you should get up on your seat and move a little bit around. And so at any point in time, I can also take weight to take because by the time you position yourself in one place for hours and hours, it's not really good. Many ordinary work activities can lead to MSDS. Entering information into a computer using computer keyboard. Some people can do this one for the whole day. For the whole day, you will suffer MSDS in the long run. Writing by hand, working as checkout assistant in the supermarket, or when you are operating an automatic machines. Laboratory work involving the repetitive use of pipette and some other equipment in the office, in the laboratory. And this is what some people will be doing for years and for years. It can have a long effect on the person. Sorry, please. Packaging goods in the warehouse, including frequent folding, cardboard boxes and the rest of them, pot washing, dishwashing, preparing food, storage and cleaning in the kitchen, and you do it in a certain position, in a certain movement from one place to another, and that's what you do for the whole day. And then tomorrow you continue again. Maybe you're a caterer, you need to change posture, you need to risk assess what you are doing and ensure that it does not condition your body. Constructing product on an assembly line. Assembly line is a very boring kind of a thing. You do one thing for days, for weeks, for years, and that's what you are doing. You might enjoy it, but it can create some problem by the time as time goes by. Pruning fruit trees or shrubs uses, some equipment, plastering a wall. You see people who are bricklayers and the rest of them, butchermen and the rest of them. Any job where movement is repeated for a long period of time can develop MSDs. The job is a repetitive one for days, for weeks, and for months. There will be named certain things you need to do to keep yourself safe from such a thing. The health impact of these MSDs includes symptoms, generally aches and discomfort, cramp like pain, pain and needles, stiffness and restriction of joint movement, losses of grip. Some people cannot even grip something any longer, burning sensations, swelling of joints or soft tissue. These are some of the things that can cause. And the body part affected could be the tendons that connect the muscle to bones, the muscle themselves, the nerve supplying the affected area and joints. So tendons, the muscles, and the nerves can be affected, and the ligament can be affected. And MS's definition is the carpal tunnel syndrome, a condition that causes pressure on the nerves, passing through the wrist. And then you can see the effect could be very damaging, causing quite a lot of types of MSDs. You could see them happening, the back pains, you have the hand wrist disorder, and what they can call a trigger finger carpal tunnel syndrome, and so many of them that it can create trouble. We are not dealing with the scientific aspect of this. It's just to let you see most of those, the effect of MSDs. Now, what are the hazards? The hazard arise because of repeated actions, such as gripping, squeezing, twisting, pushing, rolling, pulling, and reaching out, even on the wall. That could be some of the things we need to assess. It is important to remember that the action themselves are usually not hazardous. It is the prolonged repetition of the movement without sufficient rest that is the hazard. And we can see the common risk factors for workplaces for MSDs: excessive force, repetition, awkward posture, static posture, contact stress, prolonged exertion, and frequent and heavy lifting. I'll be looking at this area to let us see that even ordinary when you are lifting things, don't forget we have said that there are forces that are included that we make it to affect us. The force you are applying, the regularity and the length of time, the posture of the work you are doing, the type of movement, the tools you are using, the work design and the skills can create problem. Even ordinary, the next is considered to be the bend, twist, if an obvious angle between the neck and the back pain are observed as a result of performing the task. See this work you are doing. See this man, the way he's doing this work is not straight. Is twisting to the left. Is either twisting to the left or to the right. Any work you are doing that you cannot position your head correctly can give rise to risk. In an almost natural position, when you are straight and you can stand and sit down straight, or you can stand straight to do that job, the risk is zero. Then, which is green, which is okay. As long you begin to bend or twist part of the time, at least between 15 to 30%, you are now on amber. By the time you bend or twist more than half of the time, then your risk is very high. You are now on red. The risk is very high, which is very, very important. That is even ordinary, the positioning of your head. We are not talking about the loads. We are not talking about the time. We are not talking about your condition, your posture, even your head condition. We are not talking about it. Just positioning your head can bring you whether you are already, the risk is very, very high. So all this needs to be assessed. What of a situation where, indication of any particular effort, Say, for example, the force needs to be exerted, for example, pinching or gripping an object with some effort. That is a moderate force. Moving levers or pushing buttons with some little effort. You call it a little effort. It's moderate. Manipulating leaves of or components with some effort. Very small one, just opening the bottle. That is moderate force. Pushing or forcing items together with some effort. Using tool with some effort. Now, strong efforts, force is obvious high, strong or heavy. When you know that you are applying a very strong force to a thing, that could be leading to you are already an amber. Very strong force. Force is near to maximum level that the worker can apply. You can hardly do certain thing. Then you need, and you're about calling for help, and you are still doing it. Then you are already risking your life. You're already putting some risk there. Uh, I know this one may be a little, some of what I'm saying may be a little bit technical. Let's look for the condition of just carrying your cup of tea, your cup of tea. If you carry your cup of tea in almost natural position without bending, just straight, then that is normal. There's no risk. By the time you are carrying the cup of tea bent forward, sideways, twisted, part of the time, then the risk is becoming high. And by the time you bend forward, sideways, twisted more than half of the time, the risk is high. So you can even carry ordinary cup, and then you begin to affect your MSDs. And so you need to be very careful for what you do with your posture. Look at just what I was saying. Keep close to the body, supported, and then raise away from your body. If you raise that cup away, it's in the amber state. Raise away from the body, then half of the time, it could be increasing. Now, let me see. Okay, look at this one. The hands or fingers hold object. Look at it. How do you hold the object? Power grip, or do not grip awkwardly. Okay, that is good. Pinch or white finger grip part of the time. You are gripping, you have to hold it tight. Is already going to amber color. And pinch grip finger for more than half of the time. You take it for a long time, it could be, you can see even ordinary pencil, you are writing for a long time. And some people used to discover that it can affect them and they can begin to have pains and the rest of them. Even look at your twisting of your hand, holding of your hand, the positioning you hold your hand. Many people, they can't hold their hand straight. They have to twist it. And after you have done this one for quite a long time, it becomes a problem. The hand just stay there. The hand just stay there. That is just the way you use your hand. Some people cannot sit down properly. They can't sit in the right position. They just have to bend. You're affecting quite a lot of things in your body. And so let me move forward. When you are doing some certain works, let me go into some of this technical aspect of it. So we also see that there could be also some psychosocial rating of what we call MDSs. Psychosocial factors are not given a score. However, they should be considered through discussion with workers. And if prevent in the workplace, recorded in the score sheet, they could include some of the following will be you have to consider include little control over how the work is done. Do you have control over how you do your work? Incentive to skip breaks or finish early. Monotonous work. High level of attention and concentration you're putting onto the work. Frequent tight, deadlines. Lack of support from supervisor or work area. That can create a lot of trouble, can add to the problem. Excessive work demands and insufficient training to do the job successfully. And then, like I said to you, before you can come to a conclusion to say that you have done MSDs risk assessment, all these factors I put here have to be considered. You have to put a particular scenario in your place, a particular operator, a particular person that is doing one job or the other. You assess the environment, the force they are applying to it. You assess all the things I've said to you, I've mentioned to you, as this flow chart, and by the time you finish all these things, it will bring out the whole summary of the work of the risk assessment to say whether it is low, it is amber, it is high. And it will also tell you where you need to reduce. It might be your environment that is very poor, that is turning red, that you need to do something to ensure that place turn green. It might also be that the fact the person is putting it to read that is turning red, and then you need to train this person to know what to exert the power. By the time you are not a machine, by the time you are exerting too much effort, too much strength on your own, then you might be affecting yourself, and your MDS might be affected. So the risk assessment, you must carry out a risk assessment of all work activities, identify the hazard present, assess the level of risk of each hazard identified, ascertain who may be affected, and apply the controls that are described below. You can see some of this. There are variety of workplace intervention that have been used to reduce or eliminate work-related musculoskeletal disorder, including engineering design, changes in work methods, administrative controls, training, organized exercise, protective equipment, and medical management, to reduce exposure. I'm probably going to also apply an ergonomic approach, because we're still going to deal with ergonomic in another section. I'm probably going to overlook this area and move forward on it. But you should take account of operating position, working height, and reaching distances. Operators should not exert undue force or stretch or reach beyond their normal range of movement in order to carry out a task. If you are doing that one, you are going to affect yourself, which means there's no good design of ergonomic to that work. A small alteration might be helpful. All is needed that may be needed is to take a task easier and safer. For example, providing adjustable chair for a computer workstation, and adjusting the height of the workstation or the workshop machine or to the operator, so that the operator will not be unnecessarily reaching out with an undue force. And so engineering control, redesigning the task, training people, they are very important to make sure that you reduce the MDSs. Sitting should be adjustable. You should swivel the chairs, or when some people are working in an industry, if it's a machinist or is operating a machine, the place is seated, is fixed. It cannot be adjusted. That person is going to have problem. It's going to leave that job after some years and be feeling undue or unnecessary pain. Some people are working in a supermarket, and the supermarket, that place is fixed. It can't move an inch. It cannot even turn here and there. She should be should provide support for the lower back and the footrest for the staff. Sitting and workbench height should allow employees to work with their hands at about an elbow level or lower, so that there is no undue strain and wrist in their elbow, in their shoulder, and in their hand. A lot of people are with undue pain this day as a result of MDS, because they have worked for somebody, and after they have left the place, they are just in pain for years, and they don't know where this is coming from. It's as a result of not applying the appropriate, health and safety rule in the place of work when it comes to MDS. As long as the job is done, they are not bothered. Reduction in irregularity and duration. When you are working in the place, you need to have, movement, repetitive movement. You need to reduce it. Reducing reduce the force needed. The force you are applying to it, you are not supposed to be applying too much force, into whatever you are doing, because that is going to have effect on you. The posture is also there. The effective training, like I've mentioned, and the job rotation is very crucial. Regular breaks. You should allow regular breaks, so that people, you can go out, you can come in, you can just go for a short break, and then use that short break to cut off from that work, and then your life will be better. How do preventing MSDS is improving work techniques, proper stretching, personal protective equipment, better tools and resources, and training as also mentioned. I'm going to move fast to course 106.4, DSE. DSE screen, that is display screen equipment, regulation 1992. They need to do to protect. The employer needs to need to protect the employee from any risk associated with display screen equipment in computers, laptops. People using computer laptops, people use display screen. There are over 5 million habitual users of DSE, including processing workers, secretaries, administrators, bookkeepers, operators, journalists. Even this day, in the era of television, in the era of phone, everybody has become DSE user. And so some people will stay on their phone even when they are still on bed. And when you look at the screen time of some people, is more or less 17 or 18 hours within 24 hours. That is very dangerous. That is very dangerous. What is DSE? DSE is a device or equipment that have an alphanumeric graphic display screen and include display screens, laptop, touch screens, and other similar devices. And I think most of the time now, our phone has all these, what we're talking about. They have it. This regulation only apply to employer whose workers regularly use DSE as a significant part of their normal work daily for continuous period of an hour or more. These workers are known as DSE user, and this regulation do not apply to workers who use DSE infrequently or for a short period of time, or a senior manager who does not even, he has a DSE, he has a computer in front of his office, but he does not touch it for 1 week. He does not touch it for 1 month. So he's not a DSE user. However, the control described in how to control the risk may still be useful for those workers. There is a hazard involved in repetitive finger of movement with wrist in an upward position. If users is sit upright in a rigid position for a long time, they can eventually experience pain and discomfort in their hands, in their wrist, in their back, in their neck, shoulder, and the rest of them, and develop eye strain, headaches, general fatigues, and stress. A lot of people will complain they have headache. You should ask yourself, how many hours have you spent before computer? Now, not computer, they are not giving you job, but before your screen, before your iPhone. Some rare conditions can also occur, such as photo epilepsy, sensitive to flickering light that may trigger an epileptic fit, and facial dementia, skin complaint affecting the face. There are risks. The risks include the use of display screen equipment can lead to MSDs, stress, if the appropriate controls are not put in place. The risk of injury increases if the work posture, workplace, and the work environment do not take account of the employee's individual requirements. Some people have conditions that they even does not even allow them even to subject themselves to this thing. Some people have eye problem, and yet when they fix their eyes on computer, on screen for hours and hours, you might have some people that there will be need for health surveillance or health check. The risk varies depending on duration, intensity, and degree of difficulty of the work being done. And look and see the typical example of a sitting posture for a typical office. And what employer needs to do: analyze the workstations to assess and reduce the risk, make sure that the controls are in place, provide information and training, provide eye and eyesight tests to your people. Although we are not expected to buy them spectacles and the rest of them. Review the assessment when the user or DSE changes. The ergonomic aspect of it is the study of the interaction between the body and their work. Ergonomic design is normally defined as the application of scientific data about human mental and physical capability and performance to the design of the work system. It involves designing tools, equipment, workstation, and workplace so that the job fits the person rather than trying to make the person fit the job. This is very important. You are a human being, but they are fixing the job. They are trying to fix you to the job is there, the machine is there. They are trying to make you to conform to the job, conform to the machine, conform to the environment. It is the machine, the environment that should conform to you because you are the human being there. So rather than controlling, you to fix in a particular position, DSE expect, that they should do their proper risk assessment, that it is you that have to be well suited and the equipment have to suit your purpose because you're already configured in one way or the other. Your height is already configured. Your size, your length, your leg, your arm strength is already configured. So nobody can stretch your hands. But your computer can be moved. They can design a platform for your leg. They can design a seat, a kind of they can give you a chair that is 5-dimensional. It can rotate, it can move to the side, it can do all kind of a thing, it can move down, it can move up. And those are the kind of things you have seen that this man is enjoying. And the screen has to be adjusted in a proper way so that you will enjoy and work with DSC and you will not give yourself trouble. Sit back adjustment, good lumbar support, seat height adjustable, no excess position on undesirable thighs and bags or knees, foot support if needed, space for posture change, no obstacles on the desk. Forearm approximately wrist not excessive bend, up or down, screen height and angle to elbow comfortable and head position. Space in front of keyboard to support hands, wrist. There are some people, they are using ordinary laptop. The laptop has no support. It has no support. The mouse has no support. You should have this one. Those ones will be added to because your wrist could be affected after a long time. You have used computer for a long time, and even your mouse pad has no support. Has no support. That could be dangerous. DSC workstation control, adequate lighting, adequate contrast, no glare or distracting reflection, distracting noises is minimized, leg room is available, is allowed. Can you imagine what you pay for when you go into a plane and some people are sitting in a business class and what they enjoy there is leg room, and then somebody has given you a place you work for 24 hours, work for many years, and yet you have no leg room. Window covering if needed to minimize glare. Software appropriate, adapted to the user, providing feedback on system status, no undisclosed monitoring. Screen, stable image, adjustable, readable, and do not give around room for glare, reflection free. Keyboard, usable, adjustable, detachable, and legible. Work surface with space for flexible arrangement of equipment and document, glare free. What about chair? Stable and adjustable. Footrest if users need one. If you need one. And they control the principle to follow in controlling the risk and the risk of using display screen equipment, carry out risk assessment, assess the workstation, schedule regular breaks, and after appointment for regular eye tests, provide effective training. And when you look at some of these points, one by one, like the eye test, that they like eyesight, visible, there are visual problems, placing the screen at a comfortable view distance, keeping the screen clean. Some people will not clean their screen for years, for days, making sure the screen is not affected by any reflected light. Anti-glare screen also necessary. You should be able to dim the screen. The light on your screen. If it's not dimmable, that computer is not good enough for use. Changing the size at which the text is viewing, you should be able to do that one. You should be straining your eyes to see, what you are reading. Conduct eye test before employment is very essential because you may not know this person must have worked with somebody who a company has subjected him to a very serious DSC, problem, and now he has come to you and is coming to complain to you. He has eye problem. If you are not very careful, you can inherit other people's problem, other companies' problem. Cost of test and glasses to correct vision defect at the normal view distance to be settled by employer, but not expensive glasses. Take note of that. There's no evidence to suggest that DSC will cause permanent damage to the eyes or eyesight. So the control you require, we find them also here, the fatigue and stress can be dealt with by giving the employee some influence over the work he's doing, especially when you are doing the work you don't have control over it. It's a problem. It's a problem. Has to be given enough training on what he's using. He shouldn't be struggling too much, even using the software he's using and the equipment you are giving to him. There should be proper training. It should be effective. It should be capable of doing that one. Then regular breaks should be given to such a person. It's not that the person is going to sit down from 8 o'clock as he resume work, and they say you are closing by 5, and the person cannot get up except his break time. No, there should be regular break. When you are using DLC, it's your right. So the risk assessment, employer must complete a suitable and sufficient risk assessment and analysis for workstation. And any business should do that one. This applies to the average person working at the station and also to the staff working at home. Now, a lot of people are working at home. There should be proper risk assessment for people working at home, because otherwise, by the time the lockdown is over, if you still have in your own place, you will realize that your health condition may have probably changed. So you need to do all these things to yourself if the employer does not consider that one. The responsibility of carrying out the assessment may be delegated to a supervisor or other staff in the place. But don't forget, at times this may not be sufficient. Risk assessment can be appropriate, systematic, comprehensive review to account for ergonomic design for the DSE user. So any high level risk identified need to be reduced to the lowest level that is reasonable practicable. That is why you need a competent risk assessor to do that one. If it's not done, that may be challenging because you may not know when to reduce the risk. And so we have the application of ergonomic approach to supermarket checkout. And this is a good example where this is applied and the result is very glaring by producing something better for them. The workstation, we can also, there should be a sufficient room for the operator. We have mentioned this one. We have mentioned some of these things. The economic control, the work organization, the work environment, the training, the management controls. Can you have, the supervisor and managers should respond quickly to complaints and report a safety. Equipment should be maintained regularly and assistance should be given whatever possible to ease the workload. That is the effort that the management can do. There's a control, there's a system that the management can put into mind and ensure that some of these things are very important to their employer, train them properly, the work environment, work on it, make a decent environment. You should walk into your office and feel happy and be okay. I even want to be there. Not an environment that is intimidating, is hot, there's no illumination, there's no good light. You are staring at the screen, or the light is even too much, or the illumination is too much. All this thing has to be in the balance. And so when you are designing a house, you are designing your place of work, you are designing workplace, all these things has to be put into consideration. And also, I have this manual handling operation regulation 1992 as amended by the Health and Safety Work Regulation 2002. So what did the manual handling operation regulation require? Avoid the need for hazardous manual handling so far as reasonable practicable. Assess the risk of injury from any hazardous manual handling that can be avoided. Reduce the risk of injury from hazardous manual handling so far as reasonably practicable. Manual handling occurs in almost every workplace. In the workplace, at any time someone is moving an object as part of the everyday works. It could be an administration assistant moving a small pile of papers or office file from one side of the desk to another, even though the cabinet is here and another one is here. But that's where you keep on doing every day. It's manual handling. It could be a shop assistant, stacking packs of bottles, doing this particular job every time. It's just carrying it, lifting it one way or the other. It could also be, a builder lifting bags of sand, of cement, to tip them in a mixer, or it could be any number of actions that involve moving, something from one place to another. And this common kind of activity causes a lot of trouble. Injuries lasting for over three days that are reported each year in the UK is a high level of trouble that this can cause. Over 1 million people suffer from, like MDSs that I've mentioned, often back pain that are caused or worse or made worse by the current or past work. So there are key words there: the competent person, the hierarchy of control, the loads, the manner handling, and the MSDs, and the safe system of work. I put some video here. It's up to you to look at it later, but because of our time, we will not be able to deal with that. There are hazards I've just mentioned: the manual handling load. You need to consider the load, the manual handling task, and the work environment. It's a hazard, manual handling hazard. The risk factor for manual handling include the manual handling load. And I have this tied to this very simple formula that you can use. Just call it TIE. For example, they ask you, what is the risk factor for manual handling? Just call it TIE. TIE means, you talk about the manual handling load. You talk about the manual handling, the task itself, the task you are carrying out. Then you are talking about the environment, which is E, and you are talking about the personal capability, the individual, which is I, the individual. So the manual handling loads itself, factor to consider when assessing the risk. They include the size of the load, the shape of the load, the weight of the load, the texture of the load, and the content of the load. The manual handling tasks, factors, to consider when assessing risk associated with the task, including the space available, the number of movements you are making, doing this task, types of movement. You will see some of the video I put there. You see some people are moving some certain thing at a certain time, and you can see how repetitive it will be. Number of people involved. Then at times you can be carrying something. It could not be only you, it could be two people. When you are carrying something that involves two people, it requires additional control, because it's not only you. You have to consider the condition of the other person. You have to consider, the height. You have to consider, his capability, his ability to carry what the two of you are doing together. So the work environment also is very important. Talking about the lighting, the floor or grounds with holes, the uneven or slippery environment, or are there sudden changes in the floor or ground, the temperature, the humidity, the ventilation, and can also affect the environment. So when we're talking about environment, we're talking about a whole lot of things: the lighting, the grounds, the distribution of the floor, how slippery it is, and the changes might be there, the temperature, the humidity, the ventilation. And when you are in a place you cannot breathe very well, it can affect the task you are doing. That the personal capability and individual state of health, fitness, and strength can affect his ability to perform a task safely. People with appropriate training are capable of lifting loads. Self-confidence and motivation are also significant factors in personal capability. You need to consider your strength, consider what's your ability to do that particular job. Are you fit to do that job? The load you're about to carry, you need to assess it and to know whether it's something you can do. The hierarchy of control, when planning to implement measure to reduce the risk, identify, consider the hierarchy of control, elimination or avoidance. You need to think, should you carry this one or do you eliminate it? Is there any other way you can do this thing? Is there any substitution when you carry a thing? So you carry the whole lump, or you break it into pieces, or you find another means, or there are certain thing you can use to carry this particular thing. Controlling the risk at source, safe working procedure, training, instruction, and supervision, and personal protection equipment. I'm going to show you a video later, but let me still look at this one. Just like when I was talking about MSDs, and you look at the force applied, to the load you are carrying. This guy is carrying the same load, but I can tell you, depending the posture, depending the movement, depending on how he carries it, it can have a great effect on this person. Look at this one now. He's carrying this load in this position, hands between knees and elbow height. It's normal, no problem. He's carrying it straight. It's something he can carry very well. But the same load, when it comes to hands between the knee and floor, hands between the knee height and head height, is bending down, is raising it a little bit forward, and then in this space, you can see the way it's actually lowering down at a distance, and then it's lifting it at a very high distance. It's the same load it's carrying, but here is okay. Here, the risk is getting higher. Here is already in danger. It's likely going to break the back. Some people will say, I just bent down to carry a cup. I just bent down to carry this little load, and my back is broken. And then they cannot get out for the next few or 3 days. It's simply because of the posture. It's simply because of the kind of movement you have applied. Whether you have done it in a haste, you are moving very fast, or you are carrying, you are twisting, doing this thing, it will have a great effect on you. And so when we train people to carry things, when you have people who are carrying things in your place of work, there will be need for proper training for them to know how to do this thing. And then when it requires distance, you see, carrying it at a distance will come to a point where it becomes a risk. In this place, there's no risk because it's carrying it to his chest. And then by the time, upper arm angle away, it becomes an amber risk. And then by the time it come, it begin to twist upright, and arm fully stretch out. Now it is in red. And by the time it's twisting in this place, upper arms angle, and from torsion, because it's twisting, the risk is very high and is already on red. And don't forget, I said to you that when you are red, you're already in trouble. You're already in trouble. You're about to damage ligament. You're about to damage the tendon. You're about to damage one part of your when they are broken or when they are affected, then you will feel the pain. They won't tell you are going to have a 3 days off work, and they won't know why. So the same thing happened here. Simply look at the load they are carrying it. When you carry it in properly, you don't have problem. But by the time you are subjected to twisting, then you are in trouble. And then by the time the twisting is going another direction, you're also in trouble. And then twisting, when you are twisting and you are moving and you are running, then you are in a great danger. Whenever you add movement to whatever you are carrying, there is a high risk to that. Look at ordinary carrying this bucket, just gripping it. Because it's gripping it, it has a grip. It has something it can grip. Then it is good. It is green. And then here, because it does not have a place to even grab, it's just struggling to grab somewhere there, is already an amber. And then here, the no handles or handhold areas. So it's at risk. You need from here, it needs to control it. You need to find a space. And then it's carrying this small block, rough, slippery, with a pressure point. So it's already red. And then look at this also, just carrying it back. It has a place to carry it, but it's the same load here now. In this place, it has something. It put the load inside there. Can carry it directly and gripping it. So there's no reasonable grip in this place. And then here is really struggling because it involves no grip at all, no opportunity to grip. There's a poor gripping. Anytime you are carrying a load, you don't have a good gripping on it. You are risking yourself. Personal capability, like I've mentioned, the physical suitability of the employee who is to carry out the operation, the clothing, the footwear, or the other personal effect. One, knowledge and training. The result of a relevant risk assessment. All this will play a good role when it comes to personal capability. Whether an employee is within a group of employees identified by the assessment as a group especially at risk. You need to know that some people are vulnerable. The result of any health surveillance are going to be put into consideration. The laws also are very, very important. How quickly the job must be done. When assessing the risk from a manual handling operation, you should consider how quickly the job is done, how many loads are to be moved, how many loads are to be moved, how big the loads are. Eliminate the sharp edges, just like I've seen the picture I've explained to you, and the task also that you are doing, redesigning the staff. If you notice that the staff have to bend down, reach or stretch frequently when moving the load, then you need to consider redesigning the work so that it can reduce the frequent movement. Such a redesign might involve the use of mechanical aids such as lever, portable hose, trolleys, sack loads, and pallets, and so many conveyors. There are some places, instead of this person reaching out to catch a process that is coming, a product that is coming, why don't you design a belt, a conveyor belt, so that where the person is seated, the person, the product come in front of him and wait and stop there, and he picks it, doesn't have to stretch over there. So redesigning the task can go a long way. If the loads are large and need to move frequently over a considerable distance, manual handling should probably be excluded. Power equipment must be used. Forklift and the rest of them can be used. Also, we look at the environment just like the same way we have looked at it. The risk there is there a need for unusual strength? Is training required? Does the personal protective equipment need to be worn in this place? Are there any workers who may be at risk in this place? Do we have pregnant people? Do we have young people? Do you have vulnerable people that you need to do a special risk assessment for them? The pregnant people, there should be proper risk assessment for them when it comes to when they're working, wherever they're working. What are the environmental conditions where the manual handling operation is taking place? Is the place hot, cold? Is it humid? Is it windy or dusty? Is it noisy? If they have too much noise in your environment, that can affect your life tremendously. Is there bad vibration? Maybe train is passing through your place all the time. Is it maybe you are on a highway, your office on a highway, and then as you are walking, you keep on, the sound of horn and some other places is just disturbing that can affect you. Is it well lit? Is there enough space to maneuver the load? Are there obstruction on the way? Are there the floors? Are they not slippery, in good condition and even? And are there steps or different ground levels that needs to be negotiated? If you are going to be bending here, running away, carrying the load, and try to avoid something, it can take a long problem. And when you look at this picture, just like I said to you, it is almost everything in a proper risk assessment. Don't forget, we are looking at the specific control for all these risks. Before you can do a proper risk assessment, before you can put a proper control into manual handling, there will be need for you to control the weight, the load weight. You need to control the distance. They need you to consider the distance at which you are moving, the vertical lift zone, the torsion, whether you are twisting, the environmental factor, the flow factor, the gripping factor, the posture. You have to put everything onto this chart, and this chart will bring out the result at the end of the day to tell you that this man, whether is at risk or not, is at risk or not. And so, positive action that you to control the risk. Don't forget, the risk assessment is always there. The lifting equipment is always there. Training of staff is always there. And then there are some people, a typical example of another organization, a number of back problems among the ambulance staff in a hospital was reported, resulting in early retirement. The trust adopted 5 actions aimed to reduce the personal injury for this staff, to reduce the cost of MSDs injury. And you realize that what they implemented was purchase of equipment that reduce the risk of injury, ergonomic design of vehicles and manual handling procedure, training on manual handling techniques, medical treatment, and rehabilitation of staff, awareness and behavior therapy. They do all these things, and I can tell you the trust worked in partnership with the vehicle manufacturer to introduce automatic tail lift or ambulances and manual pumps on stretchers to try to eliminate the risk in this area. And the number of seats lost to ill health from 4,000 were reduced to 2,000 in 2 years. So when you implement this control, it have a great, opportunity. Okay, let me just share this one with you, with everybody, about this particular one I've mentioned now. Can everybody see me?
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Yes,
Okay.
we can
Yes,
see.
please. Yes, please.
Okay, you can just watch. I hope it will play very well. Okay. And I want people to tell me what is going on. Okay. Easy to stabilize. It's carrying load far away. Can you see it? Okay. Axis of rotation. Look at the axis of rotation. Okay. Is basically using his back to carry the load. Lift with your legs, not your back. Subtle movement, arm, easier to stabilize. Okay, this video just, can you see the strain? The spine is almost broken. Load far, longer movement, heavier relative load, harder to stabilize. Don't do this. Okay, I stop this one. I stop this one. Is it clear to us?
Yes,
Very clear.
please.
Okay.
Yes, it's clear.
Can anybody tell me what you observe from this particular picture I've just sent to you?
Okay. From the picture, the video you just played,
Yeah.
when he bent with his knee bent, that was a proper way of lifting the load, and he that way he'll be able to avoid any risk of injury. But the second one, when he had his spine bent, it could have brought about an injury. That was a hazard because with his spine bent that way, he'll have injury to his back.
I think the person talking is already passed by the permission of Engineer Emmanuel. I think that's a very good explanation. That's a very good explanation. That's a very good. When you don't carry it properly, you just break your back. Your spine is at risk. And that spine, don't forget, it goes to your brain, controls major part of our life. And then if it's not done properly, that's a very big problem. When you carry it, it might look so simple. It's the same load, it carries the same load, but doesn't use the leg. Most of the time when we carry things, we don't use God created our knees to bend and to stretch it for us to use to carry load. Now we are using our back to carry it. And so even the load is not even big, it's small. That can be very dangerous. Okay, workplace transport. Workplace transport. I think we might have to go and read this one for all because I want to look at the last one. You have the note and I put quite a lot there for us. If it says less than 5 minutes, workplace layout, vehicle. When you're talking about workplace transport, you are talking about another very big aspect, that the driver, the loading and uploading, the package, the packing, the reversing, and the workplace transport is a very heavy one. The risk assessment, the main control measure for workplace transport is risk assessment, good layout of traffic routes, pedestrian protection, safe parking procedure at loading bays, construction of roads and routes, competent maintenance, and driver selection and training, good practice. So I'm going to leave this one with you and go to the last one because I want us to take our, this one is workplace stress. Stress can be described as an adverse reaction that some people have to external pressure. Stress has undertaken, musculoskeletal disorder as the biggest stated cause of working days lost through injury or ill health. And statistics indicated that education, local and central government and financial services sector have the highest incidence, in this area. And we have a duty. You need to be aware that stress is very real. It may not be real to you, but it is real in the workplace. Employers have the legal duty to ensure that employees are not made ill by their work activities. Then work home life balance. There should be a work home balance. Why? Because this one can also create stress. Some people are already stressed from home. When they get home, get to work, it's a problem. Or some people carry the problem at work. They get home, they are stressed again. This can contribute to to a lot of stress at place of work. So lack of concentration, changes in personal normal behavior or mood, raised blood pressure. These are the kind of effect of stress. Poor relationship with others, frequent headache, being irritable, yeah, and showing indecisiveness, drinking or smoking more than normal, loss of appetite or weight, and backache and even ulcer. How to recognize stress causes of workplace stress: poor communication, employers expectation that employee will work late without being paid, and we take and we take work home. When you get home, you are still working. That can cause stress. Blame game. If things go wrong, the employer blames the employee without first examining the circumstances. Insufficient appropriate training in health and safety. Managers who ignore health and safety rules, who will tell them, well, you have been doing this for the past 30 years, nothing has happened. But you have destroyed a lot of people's life for more than 30 years. A lot of people have gone home. Amen. Poor organization of work activities, bullying and harassment. It's another big one. Uncertainty about the company's prospect. They can cause a lot of stress. Causes of stress: job insecurity, inadequate support from managers, conflict between different parties in the organization, and individual inability to cope with pressure of work or with pressure outside the work, boring and repetitive tasks, and feeling that staff have no power or influence in the workplace. Now, the controls are also there. The risk assessment, the managers have effect and can help workers a lot when it comes to this. Now, I'm going to round up this one, and I will just want to give us, before I close, I want to give us a poll to do. You have three or four, three questions, I think. Two questions. Okay, two questions. I put them together. Which of these statements is correct as regarding sleep and trips? Most sleeps occur when the floor is wet with water or contaminated with food product. Most sleeps occur when the floors are wet or cause obstruction by uneven surfaces. Most trips are caused by obstruction, uneven surfaces, and oil spillage. None is correct. So can you give your answer, please? What is the correct answer? I'm not. Are we seeing it? Am I the only one? Okay. People are
Yes,
seeing it.
please.
People are responding now. Okay. Okay. The second question is, which of these is not a stress management standard? Demand, control, change, DSC, and support. Most trips occur when the floors is wet with water or contaminated food product. That is the correct answer. That is the correct answer. Most sleeps, number two, most sleeps occur when the floors are wet. Sleeps is for wet or cause obstruction. Obstruction is not part of it. Uneven surface is not part of it. So that answer is not correct. Most sleeps are caused by obstruction. We're talking of trips now. Trip is for obstruction, uneven surfaces, then oil spillage has spoiled it. that is not correct. Then he said none is correct, so that cannot be correct. So for the last one, the answer is DSC. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of my colleagues and we thank our lecturers, our trainers for all what they've done. Thank you so much, and good night, everyone. And we'll see tomorrow at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So bye, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
So bye.
Bye.
I say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Engineer
Good night.
Steve. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all. Yes,
Bye-bye.
bye.